They humiliated me at my own wedding rehearsal. Thinking I had no chance, but just 72 hours later I married his billionaire boss, turning their laughter into jaw-dropping shock and envy. Revenge was sweet. I stood there in my rehearsal dress, mascara running down my face, as my fiancé's mother threw my suitcase onto the country club lawn and told me I was no longer welcome at my own wedding. 72 hours later, I was signing a marriage certificate with Elijah Murphy, the billionaire CEO I'd been working for, wearing a dress that cost more than my entire previous wedding budget. How did a junior marketing coordinator go from being humiliated at her wedding rehearsal to becoming the wife of one of the most powerful men in Chicago? The Sterling Rose Country Club looked like something out of a fairy tale that Friday evening. White roses climbed up every column, and crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead as the September sun began to set over Lake Michigan. I'd spent 18 months planning this moment, working overtime to save every penny, while my fiancé Bradley Hutchinson and his family, well, they had other priorities. Vanessa? Darling, we need to talk about the seating arrangements again. Bradley's mother, Patricia Hutchinson, approached me with that pinched expression she always wore when addressing me. Her Chanel suit probably cost more than 3 months of my rent. I've invited the Vanderbilts, and they simply cannot be seated near your... She paused, her lips curling slightly. Your people. My people. She meant my family. My mom worked double shifts as an emergency room nurse, my dad, who'd built his own contracting business from nothing, my younger brother Marcus, who was putting himself through state college. They were good, hard-working people, and Patricia treated them like they were some kind of embarrassment. Patricia, we've been over the seating chart 15 times, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Everyone has their assigned seats. The rehearsal is supposed to start in 20 minutes. Well, this is my son's wedding too, and I think I have some say in... Mom? Please? Bradley appeared beside us, but his intervention was half-hearted at best. He'd been like this for months now, standing somewhere between his mother and me, never quite committing to either side. The man I'd fallen in love with 3 years ago, who'd promised me we'd build a life together, seemed to have disappeared somewhere along the way. Bradley worked at his father's investment firm. Hutchinson and Associates, though. Worked was a generous term. He showed up late, left early, and spent most of his time networking at expensive restaurants on the company card. Meanwhile, I was grinding it out at Murphy Enterprises, a tech conglomerate that was revolutionizing artificial intelligence and cloud computing. I'd started as an administrative assistant and worked my way up to junior marketing coordinator. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Bradley, I need you to actually back me up here, I whispered, pulling him aside. Your mother has been undermining every decision I've made about our wedding. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled blonde hair and sighed. Vanessa, she's just excited. Can you try to be understanding? This is stressful for everyone, stressful for everyone. I'd been the one coordinating with vendors, choosing flowers, tasting cakes, addressing invitations, and managing the guest list while working 50-hour weeks. But sure, everyone was stressed. The rehearsal began, and I tried to push down the growing knot in my stomach. The wedding party assembled. Bradley's 3 groomsmen from his private school days, my 2 best friends from college, and Marcus as the usher. The ceremony coordinator from the country club walked us through the processional, the vows, the recessional. Remember, tomorrow at 4 p.m., everyone needs to be here by 2:30 for photos. The coordinator announced. The ceremony begins promptly at 4. After the rehearsal, we gathered in the country club's private dining room for the rehearsal dinner. This was Patricia's domain. She'd insisted on hosting and planning the entire event. The room was decorated in cream and gold with elaborate floral centerpieces that probably cost thousands of dollars. It was beautiful, but it didn't feel like me at all. Nothing about this wedding felt like me anymore. I sat at the head table next to Bradley, watching his parents work the room like it was a political campaign. His father, Douglas Hutchinson, was telling loud stories about his golf game to anyone who would listen. Patricia was showing off her latest jewelry acquisition to the other society wives she'd invited. My parents sat at a table near the back, looking uncomfortable in their formal attire. My mom kept fidgeting with her dress, and my dad was barely touching his food. They tried so hard to fit in, but the Hutchinson family and their friends made it clear they didn't belong. A toast. Douglas stood up, champagne glass in hand, to my son Bradley and his lovely bride-to-be Vanessa. Bradley, you're getting married, settling down. It's about time you started acting like a real Hutchinson. Everyone laughed. I tried to smile, but something about the way he said "real Hutchinson" made my stomach turn. What did that mean? Was I supposed to transform into someone else once I married Bradley? Patricia stood next, her glass raised. "And Vanessa dear, welcome to the family. I know you'll learn so much from us about how things are done in our social circle. There's quite a learning curve, but I'm sure you'll adapt eventually." The condescension was barely veiled. Several people at nearby tables shifted uncomfortably. My mom's face flushed red, but she said nothing. That was the worst part. Watching my family endure these subtle insults because they didn't want to cause a scene. My best friend, Jasmine Chen, was supposed to give a toast next. She stood up looking nervous. Jasmine had been my roommate in college, and she knew me better than almost anyone. She'd also been increasingly worried about my relationship with Bradley over the past year. "I've known Vanessa since we were 18 years old," Jasmine began. "She's the most determined, ambitious, and genuine person I've ever met. She doesn't pretend to be something she's not, and she doesn't let anyone push her around." Her eyes flickered to Patricia briefly. "Vanessa, I hope you never lose that fire no matter what life brings. And Bradley, I hope you realize how lucky you are." The room was silent for a moment. It wasn't the warm, fuzzy toast people expected. But Jasmine had said what needed to be said. Patricia's expression darkened. She whispered something to Douglas, who whispered something to Bradley. I could see the chain reaction happening, but I didn't understand what it meant yet. Dinner continued with forced pleasantries. I barely tasted the expensive food on my plate. Every fiber of my being was screaming that something was wrong, that I'd made a terrible mistake. But I'd come too far to back out now, hadn't I? After dinner, as guests mingled and cocktails flowed, Bradley disappeared. I found him outside on the terrace with his mother and father. Their heads bent together in intense conversation. When I approached, they stopped talking immediately. "What's going on?" I asked. Bradley wouldn't meet my eyes. Patricia stepped forward, her expression cold and calculating. "Vanessa, we need to discuss something in private." "Bradley Douglas, let's take this to the manager's office." My heart began to pound. "Discuss what?" "The wedding is tomorrow. Everything is planned. Just come with us," Douglas said firmly. We walked through the country club to a small office near the reception area, the four of us crowded into the space, me standing near the door, Bradley leaning against the desk, and his parents positioned like prosecutors about to deliver a verdict. "We've been doing some thinking," Patricia began, her voice sickeningly sweet. "And we believe it's best if we postpone the wedding." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Postpone? What are you talking about? The wedding is tomorrow." "We don't think you're ready," Douglas said. "You and Bradley come from very different backgrounds. Perhaps you need more time to understand what it means to be part of a family like ours." "Bradley." I turned to my fiancé, waiting for him to defend me, to tell his parents they were being insane. "Say something." He cleared his throat, finally looking at me. "Maybe they have a point, Vanessa. Things have been tense lately. Maybe we rushed into this." "Rushed? We've been together for 3 years. We've been engaged for 18 months. You're not the right fit," Patricia said bluntly. All pretense of sweetness gone. "You don't understand our world, our expectations, our standards. Bradley needs someone who can be an asset to his career and our family's reputation, someone who knows how to navigate high society, who comes from the right background, the right background." There it was, the real reason. I wasn't rich enough, wasn't connected enough, wasn't prestigious enough for the Hutchinson family. "This is insane," I said, looking at Bradley. "Tell them this is insane." But Bradley just stood there, silent and cowardly, letting his parents destroy our relationship without lifting a finger to stop them. "The wedding is cancelled," Douglas said with finality. "We'll handle informing the guests and the vendors. You should collect your things and leave." "Leave? My family is here? My friends are here. You're kicking me out?" "This is a private club, and we're members," Patricia said coldly. "You're here as our guest and we're revoking that invitation." The humiliation crashed over me in waves. "Bradley, please, if you ever loved me at all." "I think my parents are right," he said quietly, still not meeting my eyes. "We're too different. This was a mistake, a mistake. 3 years of my life, 18 months of wedding planning, thousands of dollars I'd saved, all a mistake." And he couldn't even look at me while he said it. I felt tears burning my eyes, but I refused to cry in front of them. "You're all cowards," I said, my voice shaking with rage and heartbreak. "You're small, petty people who think money makes you better than everyone else. Bradley, I hope you enjoy the life your parents have planned for you. Because you're too weak to ever live your own. I turned and walked out of that office with my head high, even though my heart was shattering into a million pieces. When I got back to the dining room, people were still drinking and laughing, unaware that the wedding had just been cancelled. I found my parents and Marcus were leaving, I said quietly. Now honey, what happened? My mom asked, immediately seeing the distress on my face. I'll explain in the car, we just need to go. Jasmine and my other bridesmaid Taylor Morrison rushed over. Vanessa, what's wrong? A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. The wedding's off. They cancelled it. They kicked me out. What? Jasmine's voice rose. They did. Let's just go, please. We were gathering our things when Patricia made her grand announcement. She walked to the center of the dining room and clinked her glass, calling for everyone's attention. I have an announcement to make, she said, her voice carrying across the room. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding tomorrow has been postponed indefinitely. We apologize for any inconvenience. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. People stared at me. Some looked sympathetic, others looked scandalized, and a few looked like they were enjoying the drama. Furthermore, Patricia continued, and I knew something worse was coming. We discovered that Ms. Walker has not been entirely forthcoming about certain aspects of her background and character. While we were willing to overlook some differences, we cannot in good conscience allow our son to marry someone who has proven herself unsuitable for our family. She was painting me as a liar, as someone who deceived them. Rage flooded through me. That's not true, I shouted across the room. You're making things up because I'm not rich enough for you. Please escort her out, Patricia said to the club's security staff. As if I were causing a scene rather than defending myself against slander. 2 security guards approached me. Ma'am, we need to ask you to leave the premises. I'm going, I said, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. Don't touch me, I'm going. My mom took one arm, Jasmine took the other, and they walked me out of that country club while 200 people watched. When we got to the parking lot, I saw my suitcase, the one I'd packed for the honeymoon, sitting on the lawn, my clothes spilling out onto the grass. They'd actually thrown my luggage out. I stood there on that perfectly manicured lawn in my rehearsal dress, looking at my life scattered across the grass, and I finally broke down. I sobbed in my mother's arms while Marcus collected my belongings, and Jasmine called everyone she knew to spread the real story before Patricia's lies could take hold. I'm so sorry, baby, my mom whispered, stroking my hair. They don't deserve you. They never did, but sorry didn't fix anything. Sorry I didn't undo the humiliation, the wasted time, the shattered dreams. I'd given 3 years to a man who wasn't strong enough to stand up for me, to a family who saw me as beneath them. As we drove away from the Sterling Rose Country Club that night, I made myself a promise. I would never again let anyone make me feel small. I would never again compromise who I was to fit into someone else's world. I had no idea that 72 hours later, my entire life would change in ways I couldn't possibly imagine. The weekend that was supposed to be my wedding instead became the weekend. I discovered who I really was, and who I was meant to be with. But first, I had to survive the aftermath of the worst night of my life. I woke up Saturday morning in my childhood bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling when I was 12. My head throbbed from crying, my eyes were swollen, and for a blissful 3 seconds I forgot what had happened. Then reality crashed back in. Today was supposed to be my wedding day. My phone had been buzzing non-stop since I'd turned it back on. 47 missed calls, over 100 text messages. I scrolled through them with a sense of detachment, like I was reading about someone else's life falling apart. Bradley hadn't called, not once, but plenty of other people had. Distant relatives asking what happened. College friends I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly became concerned. A few messages from co-workers at Murphy Enterprises who'd seen something on social media. And then, there were the cruel ones. People from Bradley's social circle who'd apparently already chosen their side. One message from a woman named Brittany Ashford, who I'd met exactly twice at Hutchinson family events. Always knew you weren't good enough for Bradley. Gold digger, I almost laughed. Gold digger. I'd paid for half of everything myself, working overtime and skipping lunches to save money. But facts didn't matter to people like Brittany. They saw what they wanted to see. Jasmine had texted me around 2 a.m. staying at Taylor's tonight. Come over when you wake up. Don't be alone today. We love you. I couldn't face them yet. Couldn't face the pity, the anger on my behalf. The inevitable question of what are you going to do now? What was I going to do now? I had Monday off from work. It was supposed to be the start of my honeymoon. We'd planned 2 weeks in Greece. The Santorini sunset. The beaches of Mykonos. The ancient ruins in Athens. Bradley's parents had given us the trip as a wedding present. Probably another way to show off their wealth. Now that trip would go to waste, or worse. Maybe Bradley would take someone else. The thought made me feel sick. My mom knocked softly on the door. "Honey, I made pancakes." "Your favorite?" "I'm not hungry, Mom." "I know. I'm coming in anyway." She entered with a plate stacked with chocolate chip pancakes and a cup of coffee. She set them on my old desk and sat on the edge of my bed, just like she used to when I was a teenager dealing with friendship drama or bad grades. "I should have said something," she said quietly. "At dinner last night, when that horrible woman made those comments, I should have defended you." "Mom, no. You are being polite. That's what good people do. They don't cause scenes at someone else's event." I sat up, pulling my knees to my chest. I'm the one who should have walked away months ago. I saw all the red flags. I just kept thinking it would get better once we were married, once I proved myself to them. "Oh, sweetheart." My mom's eyes filled with tears. "You never had to prove anything. You're brilliant and kind and hard-working." Bradley was the lucky one. We both knew Bradley didn't feel lucky. He felt inconvenienced by his parents' demands, and relieved they'd made the decision for him. "What am I going to tell people at work?" I asked. Everyone knew I was getting married this weekend. I requested time off. I talked about it for months. "You tell them the truth, that it didn't work out. Anyone worth knowing will understand." But, would they? Murphy Enterprises was a professional environment, and I'd already been walking a tightrope trying to prove I deserved my promotion to junior marketing coordinator. Some of my colleagues thought I was too young, too inexperienced. Having my personal life explode so publicly would just give them more ammunition. And then there was Elijah Murphy himself. I'd only interacted with the CEO directly a handful of times. He was 34, self-made, brilliant, and intensely private. He'd founded Murphy Enterprises at 23, with a revolutionary algorithm he'd developed in graduate school. And in 11 years he'd turned it into a multi-billion company. Forbes had called him the youngest tech billionaire to watch. Business Insider had done a profile titled, "The Man Who Makes AI Human." But Elijah Murphy wasn't the typical Silicon Valley bro. He didn't do flashy interviews or post inspirational quotes on social media. He was quiet, strategic, and absolutely terrifying when he was disappointed in your work. I'd presented a marketing campaign to him 6 months ago for a new product launch. He'd sat through my entire presentation in silence, his dark eyes unreadable, his expression neutral. When I finished, he'd simply said, "The data analysis is solid. The creative execution needs work, revise, and resubmit by Friday." I'd worked 80 hours that week perfecting the campaign. When I presented the revised version, he'd approved it with a slight nod and the words, "This is better. Implement it." That campaign had increased product awareness by 37%. It had put me on the radar of senior management. It had also made me absolutely paranoid about impressing Elijah Murphy. Now I had to face him on Monday morning, knowing my personal life was a disaster. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Vanessa Walker?" A woman's professional voice. "Yes? This is Caroline Price from the Sterling Rose Country Club. I'm calling to inform you that the Hutchinson family has requested we bill you for 50% of the rehearsal dinner costs, as the cancellation was your responsibility." My blood ran cold. "Excuse me?" "The contract states that, if the bride cancels within 72 hours of the event, she's responsible for 50% of." "I didn't cancel anything." I exploded. "They canceled. They kicked me out. They humiliated me in front of 200 people. According to our records and the statement provided by Mrs. Patricia Hutchinson, you were the one who called off the wedding due to, and I quote, personal reasons and cold feet." They were lying. They were actually lying to avoid paying for their own party. That's completely false. And you can tell Patricia Hutchinson that if she sends me a bill, I'll sue her for defamation and harassment. I have witnesses. Record this call. I never canceled anything. Ma'am, I'm just informing you of I'm not paying for a party I was thrown out of. Send your bill to the people who actually hosted it. I hung up, shaking with rage. This was a new level of cruelty. It wasn't enough that they destroyed my wedding and my reputation. Now they wanted to financially devastate me too. I called Jasmine immediately. "They're trying to bill me for the rehearsal dinner," I said without preamble. "They told the country club I canceled, so now I'm supposedly responsible for thousands of dollars." "What?" "Vanessa, that's fraud. You have witnesses. Your entire family was there, I know, but it's my word against theirs, and they're members of that club. They have connections, lawyers, and money. What do I have? The truth. And friends, who will testify." Jasmine's voice was fierce. "Come to Taylor's apartment. We're doing damage control. I've already been texting everyone who was at that dinner. People know what really happened. Social media? Some people posted about it, but I've been commenting on the real story. Patricia can spin whatever narrative she wants, but we're not letting her get away with it." I felt a surge of gratitude for my friends. "I'll be there in an hour." After I hung up, I forced myself to eat the pancakes my mom had made. They tasted like cardboard, but I needed the energy. Then I showered, put on jeans and a sweatshirt, and tried to make myself look less like someone whose life had imploded. When I arrived at Taylor's apartment in Lincoln Park, I found not just Jasmine and Taylor, but also Marcus and my dad. "What are you all doing here?" I asked. "Family meeting," my dad said gruffly. "We're handling this Hutchinson situation." Marcus had his laptop open, typing furiously. "I'm documenting everything. Every witness, every conversation, every text message. If they try to sue you or spread lies, we'll have a timeline proving what actually happened." I also called our lawyer. My dad added, "Jim Patterson. He said if they tried to bill you for anything, he'll send them a cease and desist letter immediately." I felt tears welling up again, but this time from gratitude rather than grief. "You guys don't have to?" "Yes, we do," Taylor interrupted. "Because you'd do the same for any of us. Now, sit down. We have work to do." For the next 3 hours we worked. Marcus compiled evidence. Taylor helped me draft an email to the wedding vendors, explaining the situation and requesting refunds where possible. Jasmine managed social media, making sure the truth was visible to anyone searching for information. My dad talked to his lawyer friend about legal protection around 3 p.m., what should have been 1 hour before my wedding ceremony. My phone buzzed with a call from a number I recognized: Murphy. Enterprise's man line. My stomach dropped. "It's work," I told the group. "Why would they be calling me on Saturday?" "Answer it," Jasmine urged. "Hello? Ms. Walker? This is Amanda Pearson, Mr. Murphy's executive assistant." Her voice was crisp and professional. "Mr. Murphy would like to see you in his office Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp. Please confirm you'll be available." That was before the regular workday started. Yes, I'll be there. Is everything okay? Mr. Murphy will discuss that with you Monday. Have a good weekend, Ms. Walker." She hung up before I could ask any more questions. Everyone was staring at me. "That was Elijah Murphy's assistant," I said slowly. "He wants to see me Monday morning." "Before anyone else gets in, why?" Taylor asked. "I have no idea. But when the CEO summons you personally, it's never good." My hands were trembling. What if he heard about what happened? What if he thinks I'm unprofessional? What if I'm getting fired? "You're not getting fired," Jasmine said firmly. "You're one of their best employees. You told me you got a performance bonus last quarter. That doesn't matter if he thinks I'm a liability." I felt panic rising in my chest. This is it. I'm losing my job. I've lost my fiancé, my wedding, my reputation. And now I'm losing my career too. "Vanessa, breathe," my dad commanded. "You don't know what this meeting is about. Don't catastrophize," but I couldn't help it. Everything was falling apart at once, and the one stable thing in my life, my job, my career, my professional identity, was suddenly in jeopardy. The rest of Saturday passed in a blur. I went through the motions, pretending to be okay while my mind spun worst-case scenarios. That evening, I returned to my apartment for the first time since Friday morning. The place felt haunted. Wedding gifts were stacked in the corner, waiting to be opened. My wedding dress hung in the closet, still in its protective bag. Bridal magazines sat on the coffee table. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of the future I'd planned and lost. I couldn't stay there. I grabbed a bag, threw in clothes and toiletries, and went back to my parents' house. I'd figure out the apartment situation later. Right now, I just need to survive. Sunday was worse than Saturday. The reality that Bridal was truly gone set in. I kept expecting him to call, to apologize, to tell me he'd made a mistake. But my phone stayed silent. Around 6 p.m. I finally broke down and looked at his social media. His Instagram was public, and my heart stopped when I saw his most recent post from 2 hours ago. It was a photo of him at a yacht party with friends, champagne glass raised, big smile on his face. The caption, surrounded by real ones. Grateful for family and friends who always have my back. New beginnings, new beginnings. Less than 48 hours after destroying me, he was partying and celebrating new beginnings. The comments were even worse. His friends congratulated him on dodging a bullet and making the right choice. Brittany Ashford had commented, "You deserve so much better." He'd already rewritten the narrative. In his version, I was the problem he'd escaped, not the woman he'd betrayed. I closed the app before I could do something stupid like comment or send him an angry message. He wasn't worth it. None of them were worth it. That night, I barely slept. I kept running through possible scenarios for Monday's meeting. Maybe it wasn't about my personal life at all. Maybe Murphy Enterprises was restructuring. Maybe my department was being eliminated. Maybe I'd made some mistake on a recent project that I'd overlooked. By the time my alarm went off Monday morning at 5:03 a.m., I'd gotten maybe 3 hours of sleep. I dressed in my most professional outfit, a navy blue suit with a crisp white blouse. I did my makeup carefully to hide the engine and crying. I straightened my dark brown hair until it gleamed. If I was going down, I'd go down looking polished. I arrived at Murphy Enterprises headquarters in the Loop at 7:45. The building was a sleek glass tower with the company logo, a stylized neural network, design emblazoned near the top. I'd always felt proud walking into this building. Proud to be part of something innovative and important. Today, I just felt scared. I took the elevator to the 42nd floor, where executive offices were located. I'd only been up here a handful of times. The reception area was empty this early, but Amanda Pearson sat at her desk, outside Elijah Murphy's office, perfectly composed despite the hour. "Ms. Walker," she greeted me with a professional smile. "You're punctual, Mr. Murphy appreciates that. He's just finishing a call. Please, have a seat." I sat in one of the modern chairs in the waiting area, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Through the frosted glass walls, I could see Elijah Murphy's silhouette as he paced while talking on the phone. 5 agonizing minutes passed. Then Amanda's desk phone buzzed. "Sent her in." Elijah's voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Murphy will see you now," Amanda said, gesturing to the door. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked toward whatever fate awaited me on the other side of that door. This was it. The moment that would determine whether I still had a career or if I'd lost everything. I opened the door and stepped into Elijah Murphy's office, completely unprepared for what he was about to tell me. Elijah Murphy's office was nothing like I expected. I'd imagined cold minimalism, steel and glass, maybe some pretentious modern art. Instead, the space was warm. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls, filled with everything from computer science textbooks to classic literature. A vintage Persian rug covered the hardwood floor. Large windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the morning sun casting golden light across the water. Elijah stood by those windows, his back to me, hands in the pockets of his perfectly tailored charcoal suit. He was tall, over 6 feet, with dark hair and the kind of commanding presence that made every room feel smaller. "Miss Walker, thank you for coming in early." He turned to face me, and I was struck by how tired he looked. Dark circles shadowed his gray eyes, and there was a tension in his jaw that suggested he hadn't slept much either. "Please, sit." I took one of the leather chairs facing his desk, my heart hammering against my ribs. He remained standing, which somehow made the power dynamic even more intimidating. "I'm aware of what happened this weekend," he said without preamble. "Your canceled wedding. The incident at the Sterling Rose Country Club." My face burned with humiliation. Of course he knew. Probably everyone knew by now. "Mr. Murphy, I can assure you that my personal situation won't affect my work performance. I'm completely committed to—" He held up a hand, stopping me mid-sentence. "I'm not concerned about your work performance. Your track record speaks for itself." He moved to his desk, pressed a button on his phone. "Amanda, hold all my calls for the next hour." "An hour? What could possibly require an hour of discussion?" Elijah sat down across from me, his expression unreadable. "What I'm about to tell you is highly confidential. Before we continue, I need your word that this conversation stays between us." "Of course," I said, completely confused about where this was going. I'm being blackmailed. Whatever I'd expected him to say, it wasn't that. I stared at him, speechless. 6 months ago I was briefly involved with someone. He continued. His voice measured and calm, as if he were discussing quarterly earnings rather than blackmail. Catherine Whitmore. She's the daughter of Senator Richard Whitmore. The relationship ended after 3 weeks when I realized she was more interested in the publicity and my money than anything genuine. I knew the name. Senator Whitmore was a powerful figure in Illinois politics, known for his conservative family values platform. Catherine didn't take the breakup well, Elijah said. She's been trying to get back together for months. Last week, she approached me with an ultimatum. Either I marry her or she'll release fabricated evidence suggesting I engaged in insider trading and corporate espionage. She has connections to certain journalists and regulators who would be happy to investigate, even if the charges are baseless. That's insane, I breathed. Can't you just sue her? Get a restraining order? It's not that simple. Her father is Senator Whitmore. Any public legal battle would create exactly the kind of scandal she's threatening, whether or not her allegations have merit. The damage to my company's reputation would be catastrophic. We're in the middle of negotiating a merger with a European tech firm worth billions. One whiff of scandal and that deal collapses. I was beginning to understand, but I still didn't know why he was telling me this. Catherine gave me until this Friday to agree to an engagement. Elijah continued. She wants a society wedding, photo spreads in magazines, the whole performance. She believes that once we're married, she'll have access to my assets and social status permanently. That's extortion. Yes, and I need a way out. He leaned forward. His gray eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. Which brings me to why you're here, Ms. Walker. I have a proposal for you. A business proposal. My mind raced trying to connect the dots. I don't understand. I need a wife immediately. Someone Catherine can't compete with. Someone whose sudden marriage to me would be believable enough to neutralize her threats. If I'm already married, her leverage disappears. The pieces clicked into place and my stomach dropped. You want to marry me? I said slowly. That's what this is about. A temporary arrangement, he clarified. A marriage, and name only. We'd maintain the appearance of a relationship for 1 year, long enough to handle the merger and ensure Catherine moves on. After that, we divorce quietly. In exchange, I'll compensate you generously. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. Why May? Several reasons. First, your recent public humiliation creates a perfect narrative. The woman who is rejected by old money finds happiness with new money. It's a story the media will love, which gives our sudden marriage credibility. Second, you work for my company, so we have a professional connection that explains how we grew close. Third, you've demonstrated discretion and intelligence in your work. I trust you to handle this arrangement professionally. You trust me? I laughed. A slightly hysterical sound. You barely know me. I know your work. I know you rebuilt that entire marketing campaign in under a week because you refused to present anything less than excellent. I know you stay late when projects demand it. I know you don't gossip or play office politics. He paused. And I know you were planning to take 2 weeks off for a honeymoon in Greece that's no longer happening. How did you? I pay attention to my employees, Ms. Walker, especially the promising ones. He pulled a folder from his desk drawer and slid it across to me. This is the contract. Take your time reading it. The compensation section is on page 4. With shaking hands, I opened the folder. The contract was thorough. Pages of legal language outlining expectations, boundaries, and terms. Then I reached page 4 and saw the number $5 million. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. $5 million for 1 year of marriage, plus a penthouse apartment in a luxury building downtown for the duration of the arrangement, plus a monthly allowance for wardrobe and expenses, plus complete healthcare coverage. This is, I couldn't even find words, fair compensation for your time and the disruption to your life, Elijah said matter-of-factly. You'd be giving up your privacy, your freedom to date anyone else, for a year, and potentially subjecting yourself to media scrutiny. That deserves substantial payment, but why so much? You could find someone else who'd do this for less. Because I need someone I can trust to maintain professionalism, and I need someone who won't get emotionally invested in the arrangement. The high compensation ensures you take this seriously as a business transaction. His eyes narrowed slightly. It also ensures you have financial security after we divorce. I looked into your situation, Miss Walker. You paid for half of your canceled wedding yourself. You have student loans. Your apartment lease is up for renewal soon, at a significantly higher rent. This arrangement solves your immediate problems while solving mine. He'd researched me thoroughly. It should have felt invasive, but instead it felt strangely considerate. He'd structured the offer to actually help me, not just use me. There are conditions, he continued. You'd need to move into my penthouse immediately. We'd claim we've been secretly seeing each other for months, and decided to marry quickly. You'd attend social events with me as needed. Play the role of devoted wife in public. In private, we maintain separate bedrooms and separate lives. No romantic or physical relationship. This is purely business. What about my job? You'd transition to a senior marketing director position. A promotion you've earned regardless of this arrangement. You'd report directly to the CMO instead of your current manager. That removes any appearance of impropriety or favoritism related to our marriage. He'd thought of everything. This wasn't some impulsive plan. He'd carefully constructed a solution that benefited both of us while protecting his company and my career. When would we? I couldn't even say the word. This Friday. I have a judge who owes me a favor. We'd have a private ceremony, just the two of us and necessary witnesses. Then we'd already drafted a press release about our whirlwind romance and surprise elopement. Friday. 4 days away. Less than a week after my wedding to Bradley was supposed to happen. People will think I'm insane, I said, marrying my boss less than a week after my relationship ended. People will think you were smart enough to recognize what you deserved, and bold enough to seize it. Believe me, Ms. Walker, the narrative will control. You'll be the woman who traded a weak man from old money for a powerful man who actually values you. It was manipulation, but it was brilliant manipulation. He was offering me not just money, but revenge. The chance to show Bradley and his awful family that I'd landed on my feet. No, that I'd soared. I need time to think about this, I said. You have until Wednesday at 5 p.m. to decide. If you agree, we'll handle the legal paperwork Thursday. Ceremony Friday afternoon. He stood, signaling the meeting was ending. I know this is unconventional, Ms. Walker, but I'm not asking you to love me or even like me. I'm asking you to enter a mutually beneficial business arrangement with clear terms and generous compensation. Read the contract carefully. Consult a lawyer if you want. I'll provide a recommendation if you need one. Then make whatever decision is best for you. I stood as well, clutching the folder. Mr. Murphy, can I ask you something? Of course. Why are you really doing this? You're a billionaire. You could fight Catherine Whitmore in court, hire the best lawyers, weather any scandal. Why go to these lengths? For the first time, his expression softened slightly. Because I built this company from nothing, Ms. Walker. Every algorithm, every innovation, every success, I earned it. I won't let someone like Catherine Whitmore destroy it because she thinks she's entitled to my life and my money. This isn't just about protecting my reputation. It's about refusing to be controlled. I understood that. God, did I understand that. Bradley and his family had tried to control me. Shape me into what they wanted. And I'd almost let them. I'll read the contract, I said. I'll give you my answer by Wednesday. That's all I ask. He walked me to the door. And Ms. Walker, regardless of your decision, your job is secure. This conversation doesn't leave this room unless you agree to the arrangement. You have my word. I left his office in a daze, my mind spinning. Amanda gave me a knowing look as I passed her desk, and I wondered just how much she knew about her boss's situation. The elevator ride down to my floor felt surreal. I was supposed to start my workday, attend meetings, respond to emails, and act normal. But how could anything be normal when I was holding a contract to marry a billionaire? I made it to my desk, logged into my computer, and stared blankly at my screen. My coworker, Derek Martinez, rolled his chair over. Hey, Vanessa. How was the wedding? Wait. He stopped noticing my expression. You okay? The wedding got canceled, I said automatically. Long story, I'm fine. Oh man, I'm sorry. That's rough. He looked genuinely sympathetic. If you need anything, thanks Derek, I appreciate it. He rolled back to his desk, and I was grateful he didn't push for details. I opened the contract folder and began reading every single word, my heart pounding with each paragraph. By lunch, I'd read it 3 times. By the end of the workday, I'd made notes on every clause. That evening I took it to my dad's lawyer friend Jim Patterson, and had him review it thoroughly. This is the most ironclad contract I've ever seen, Jim said, looking impressed. Whoever drafted this wanted to make sure both parties were protected. You get the $5 million no matter what, even if the marriage ends early due to circumstances beyond your control. You retain all rights to your own property and assets. There's even a clause protecting you from any debts or legal issues he might incur during the marriage. So you think it's legitimate? Absolutely. And frankly, Vanessa, this could change your life. $5 million? That's generational wealth. That's never worrying about money again. That night, I sat in my childhood bedroom with the contract spread across my bed. Part of me thought this was crazy. Marrying a man I barely knew for money even temporarily felt like something out of a movie rather than real life. But another part of me, the part that was still angry about Bradley's betrayal, still humiliated by Patricia's cruelty, still terrified about my financial future, saw this for what it was. An opportunity, not just for money, though that was life-changing, but an opportunity to take control of my own narrative, to show everyone who doubted me that I was worth more than they'd ever recognized, to prove to myself that I could be bold enough to make an unconventional choice. Tuesday passed in a blur of anxiety and overthinking. Wednesday morning, I woke up knowing what my decision would be. At 4:05 p.m., I took the elevator back up to the 42nd floor. Amanda looked up from her computer. "Ms. Walker, Mr. Murphy is expecting you. Go right in." I walked into his office with the contract folder in hand. Elijah stood by his windows again, watching the sun begin to set over the lake. "Mr. Murphy," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I've made my decision." He turned to face me, his expression carefully neutral, giving nothing away. "I'll do it," I said. "I'll marry you." The hint of a smile crossed his face. "Then we have an agreement, Ms. Walker, or should I start calling you Vanessa?" "Vanessa is fine." "Elijah," he said, "if we're going to be married even temporarily, we should probably use first names." I nodded. The reality of what I'd just agreed to crashing over me. In less than 48 hours I would be Mrs. Elijah Murphy. And somehow, that felt less terrifying than the future I'd almost had as Mrs. Bradley Hutchinson. Thursday morning felt like stepping into someone else's life. I arrived at a downtown law office at 9 a.m., where 3 attorneys were waiting with a stack of documents that needed signatures. Elijah was already there, looking composed in a navy suit, scrolling through his phone. "Good morning," he said, standing when I entered. There was something different about his demeanor, less formal, though still professional. "Coffee? Please." "Black." He poured it himself from a carafe on the side table, which surprised me. I'd expected an assistant to handle such tasks. He handed me the cup, and our fingers briefly touched. His hands were warm. The lead attorney, a woman named Margaret Chen, guided us through each document. Prenuptial agreement, marriage license application, updated beneficiary forms, non-disclosure agreements, financial disclosures. The pile seemed endless. "This clause here," Margaret pointed to a section in the prenup, "protects both parties' assets acquired before and during the marriage. Ms. Walker, everything you earn or inherit remains solely yours. The same applies to Mr. Murphy. The $5 million compensation is classified as payment for services rendered as a consultant, not as a marital asset." "Services rendered?" I raised an eyebrow. "Legal language," Elijah said smoothly. "It keeps everything clean for tax purposes and the eventual divorce. You're essentially being employed as my wife for 1 year." It sounded cold when phrased that way, but I appreciated the clarity. No illusions, no false romance. Just a transaction. We signed document after document. My hand was cramped by the time we finished. Margaret collected everything into a briefcase. "The marriage license will be ready this afternoon," she said. "I'll file it at City Hall personally. Judge Morrison is expecting you tomorrow at 2 p.m. at his private chambers. The ceremony will take approximately 15 minutes. 15 minutes to get married." My wedding to Bradley was supposed to last 45 minutes with a full Catholic Mass. The irony wasn't lost on me. After the lawyers left, Elijah checked his watch. "We need to go shopping." "Shopping? You need a dress for tomorrow. And we need wedding rings." He said it so casually, as if buying wedding rings was equivalent to picking up groceries. "I've cleared my schedule by 3 p.m., there's a boutique on the Gold Coast that's expecting us." An hour later, I found myself in an exclusive bridal boutique I'd never have dared enter on my own. The owner, an elegant woman named Simone, greeted Elijah like an old friend. "Mr. Murphy, always a pleasure. And you must be the bride." She looked me over with a practiced eye. "I have several options pulled for you. When Amanda called yesterday with your measurements, I knew exactly what would work." She led me to a private fitting room where 6 dresses hung on display. Not the massive ball gowns I'd looked at for my wedding to Bradley. These were sophisticated, elegant dresses for a woman rather than a girl playing princess. I tried on each one while Simone and her assistant fussed over fit and style. Elijah waited outside the fitting area, working on his laptop. It was surreal, trying on wedding dresses while my future husband reviewed quarterly reports. The fifth dress stopped me cold. It was ivory silk, sleeveless with a subtle V-neck fitted through the bodice and flowing into a graceful knee-length skirt. Simple, timeless, elegant. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I almost didn't recognize. Confident, sophisticated, ready for whatever came next. "That's the one," Simone declared. "It's perfect for you." I stepped out to show Elijah. He looked up from his laptop and for a moment something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe appreciation. Then his professional mask slipped back into place. "It suits you," he said simply. "We'll take it." He didn't even ask the price. Simone beamed and whisked the dress away for final alterations, promising to deliver it to my apartment by evening. Next came the jewelry store. Not just any jewelry store, Cartier on Michigan Avenue. The moment we walked in, a manager materialized. "Mr. Murphy, welcome. Your assistant mentioned you'd be coming in. I have the private viewing room prepared." We were escorted to a luxurious room in the back, where velvet-lined trays of wedding bands awaited us. The manager discreetly left us alone. "Choose whatever you like," Elijah said, studying the men's bands. "Don't worry about the price." I looked at the ring sparkling under the lights. Any one of them cost more than I used to make in 6 months. I'd chosen my ring for Bradley from a chain jewelry store at the mall. Spending hours agonizing over whether the half-carat diamond was too extravagant. My fingers hovered over a simple platinum band with small diamonds set flush around the circumference. Elegant but not ostentatious. It felt right. "This one," I said. Elijah nodded. "Good choice, classic." He selected a matching platinum band for himself, wider and plain. "We should probably wear them starting tomorrow, get used to them. People notice when wedding rings look too new." Details. He thought of every detail. The manager returned to seize the rings. "We can have these ready by tomorrow morning. I'll have them delivered to your office." Mr. Murphy. Back in Elijah's car, a sleek black Tesla that drove itself while we sat. In the back, I finally voiced the question that had been nagging at me. "Your family. Don't they need to know about this?" His expression darkened. "I don't have a family. My parents died in a car accident when I was 19. I have a younger sister, Melissa, but we're not close. She made some choices I couldn't support, and we haven't spoken in 5 years. I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's not public knowledge. I prefer it that way." He was quiet for a moment. "What about your family? Do they know?" "Not yet. I'm telling them tonight." My stomach twisted at the thought. "They're going to think I've lost my mind." "Probably," he agreed. "But ultimately, it's your decision. You're an adult. You don't need their permission." He was right, but that didn't make it easier. That evening, I gathered my parents and Marcus in their living room and dropped the bomb. "I'm getting married tomorrow." Complete silence. My mom's coffee cup froze halfway to her mouth. My dad's newspaper crinkled in his grip. Marcus just stared. "Married," my mom finally said. "To who?" "Elijah Murphy, my boss. The CEO of Murphy Enterprises." More silence. Then Marcus burst out laughing. "Good one, Van. Really had us going there for a second?" "I'm not joking." I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo of Elijah from a recent Forbes article. "We've been seeing each other quietly for a few months. After what happened with Bradley, we decided not to wait anymore." The lies came easier than I expected. Elijah and I had rehearsed the story that afternoon. "A few months," my dad's voice was dangerously quiet. "You were engaged to Bradley a few months ago. I know how it looks, but Bradley and I were wrong for each other. I realized that before the wedding fell apart. Elijah is different. He sees me as technically true, even if the context was fabricated." "Vanessa Marie Walker," my mom said, using my full name like she did when I was in trouble. "You cannot marry a man you barely know just days after your heart was broken. This is rebound. This is you trying to prove something to Bradley and his horrible family." "Maybe it started that way," I admitted, sticking to the script. "But it's real, Mom. I know it's fast. I know it seems crazy, but sometimes you just know when something is right." "He's a billionaire," Marcus said suspiciously. "What does a billionaire want with?" He stopped himself. But the implication hung in the air. "What does someone like him want with someone like you?" "He wants a partner, not a trophy," I said firmly. "And I want someone who doesn't treat me like I'm beneath them. You met Bradley's family. You saw how they treated us. Elijah isn't like that. My dad stood up and paced. I need to meet him. Before you marry him. Tomorrow morning, I'd anticipated this. He's expecting your call. He wants to meet you too. Properly. I handed my dad a business card with Elijah's private number. He'll answer. The conversation went on for 2 more hours. My parents cycled through shock, concern, anger, and finally reluctant acceptance. They couldn't stop me. I was 26 years old, but they could voice their worries. Just promise me something, my mom said as I was leaving. Promise me you're doing this for the right reasons, not out of hurt or anger or revenge. I hugged her tight. I promise I know what I'm doing. At least that part wasn't a lie. I knew exactly what I was doing, making a calculated decision to change my life. Friday morning, my dad called Elijah at 7 a.m. I wasn't present for that conversation, but my dad later told me it lasted 45 minutes. Whatever Elijah said must have been convincing because when my dad hung up, he looked thoughtful rather than angry. He's smart, my dad admitted, and he seems genuine about respecting you. But Vanessa, this is still crazy. I know, and you're sure? I'm sure. At 1 p.m. I put on the ivory dress. Jasmine and Taylor came over to help with my hair and makeup. They knew the truth. I told them everything the night before. They'd reacted with shock, concern, and then fear support. $5 million. Taylor kept repeating. Vanessa, that's life-changing money. You could pay off your student loans. Buy a house, invest. Never worry again. It's more than the money, Jasmine said. Styling my hair into soft waves, it's about taking control after Bradley made you feel powerless. I get it. At 1:45 p.m., Elijah's car arrived. Not a limo. That would have been too ostentatious. Just his Tesla with a driver. I slid into the back seat, my heart hammering. Judge Morrison's private chambers were in a historic building downtown. We were met by Amanda, who would serve as one witness, and Elijah's head of security, a man named Thomas Reeves, who would be the other. Elijah wore a dark gray suit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. When he saw me in the dress, he smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. You look beautiful, he said softly. Thank you. You look good too. Judge Morrison was a distinguished man in his 60s who greeted Elijah warmly. Elijah, it's been too long, and this must be Vanessa. Lovely to meet you, my dear. The ceremony was simple, almost anticlimactic. Judge Morrison read the traditional vows. We exchanged rings and signed the license. The whole thing took 12 minutes. By the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Elijah and I looked at each other. We'd discussed this moment. A brief chaste kiss for appearances. Nothing more. He leaned in, his hand gentle on my waist. Our lips met for maybe 3 seconds. Soft, professional, meaningless. Except somewhere in those 3 seconds, something unexpected happened. A spark, a flutter in my chest, a warmth that spread through me. I pulled back quickly, startled by my own reaction. Elijah's expression was unreadable. Congratulations, Judge Morrison said, shaking our hands. Be happy, you too. And just like that, I was married to Elijah Murphy. We took exactly 3 photos. Amanda insisted on the press release. Then we were back in the car, heading to Elijah's penthouse, where I'd be living for the next year. Well, I said as the city blurred past the windows. I guess we did it. We did. He was already back on his phone responding to emails. The press release goes out in an hour. My PR team is prepared for the response. Your phone will probably explode with calls and messages. Right. Of course. Vanessa. He looked up from his phone. Are you okay? I'm married to a man I barely know. I'm about to be all over the news. My ex-fiancé is going to lose his mind. But yeah, I'm okay. I laughed, slightly hysterical. I'm better than okay. I'm Mrs. Elijah Murphy. For the next year, he reminded me. Don't forget that part. Trust me, I won't. But as we pulled up to his building, our building now, and prepared to start this elaborate charade, I couldn't shake the memory of that kiss. The unexpected warmth of it. The way my heart stuttered. This was supposed to be purely business. Simple. Uncomplicated. So why did I have this sinking feeling that nothing about this arrangement would be simple at all? The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a luxury building in Streeterville. When the private elevator opened directly into the apartment, my breath caught. Florida ceiling windows revealed a panoramic view of Lake Michigan and the Chicago skyline. The space was modern but warm, exposed brick walls, hardwood floors, contemporary furniture that looked comfortable rather than just stylish. "Home sweet home," Elijah said, loosening his tie. "Let me show you around." The main living area was open concept, living room flowing into a dining area and a chef's kitchen with top-of-the-line appliances. A library with built-in shelving took up one corner. The outdoor terrace wrapped around two sides of the building. "Your bedroom is this way." He led me down a hallway past his home office. "You'll have complete privacy. Your own bathroom, walk-in closet." I had my assistant stock some basics, but you can redecorate however you want. The bedroom was larger than my entire previous apartment. A king-sized bed faced the windows. The attached bathroom had a soaking tub and a rainfall shower. The walk-in closet already held some clothing, casual pieces in my size, still with tags attached. "This is incredible," I breathed. "It's yours for the next year. Make yourself comfortable." He checked his watch. The press release gave them a heads up before they see it online. Right. The announcement that would tell the world Elijah Murphy had secretly married an unknown marketing coordinator. I pulled out my phone and called my mom. "It's done," I said when she answered. "We're married, and you're about to see it all over the news." "Oh, honey." She sounded worried rather than excited. "Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm okay, Mom. I promise, just when people start calling you, stick to the story. We've been dating secretly for months. We got married quickly because we didn't want to wait. That's it." After I hung up, I called Jasmine and Taylor to warn them too. Then I sat on my new bed in my new bedroom in my new husband's penthouse and waited for the chaos to begin. It started exactly at 3 p.m. My phone opened Twitter and saw the headline already trending. "Tech billionaire Elijah Murphy marries in secret ceremony." The press release was perfectly crafted. It included one of the photos from Judge Morrison's chambers. Elijah and me standing close, his hand on my waist, both of us smiling. We looked happy. We looked real. Elijah Murphy, CEO of Murphy Enterprises, married Vanessa Walker in an intimate ceremony Friday afternoon. The couple, who met through Walker's work at Murphy Enterprises, have been quietly dating for several months. "When you know," Murphy said in a statement. "Vanessa is brilliant, driven, and genuine. I'm fortunate she said yes." The couple plans to honeymoon privately before Walker returns to her new role as Senior Marketing Director at Murphy Enterprises. The comment section was already exploding. Some people were congratulating us. Others were suspicious about the timing. Many were speculating about whether I was pregnant or after his money. One particularly harsh comment called me the rebound girl who hit the jackpot. I should have stopped reading, but I couldn't look away. Then I saw Bradley's name pop up. Someone had tagged him, asking for his reaction to his ex-fiancée marrying a billionaire. My stomach twisted. I clicked on his profile. He'd posted 10 minutes ago. "Wish nothing but happiness for everyone. Moving forward with my own life." The comments under his post were vicious. People calling me a gold digger, saying he dodged a bullet, claiming I'd probably been cheating with Elijah all along. His mother Patricia had liked the post and commented, "So proud of you for handling this with class. Sweetheart." Class. As if she hadn't publicly humiliated me and thrown my luggage on the lawn. A knock on my bedroom door interrupted my spiraling. "Vanessa? May I come in?" "Yeah." Elijah entered, now changed into jeans and a casual button-down. It was jarring seeing him in normal clothes. He looked younger, more approachable. He sat in the chair by the window, maintaining respectful distance. "You're reading the comments," he observed. "Don't. They don't matter. Easy for you to say. You're not being called a gold digger and a home wrecker. No, but being called an impulsive fool in a midlife crisis cliché. I'm 34. He almost smiled. "The internet is brutal to everyone. Best to ignore it. Your ex. Catherine Whitmore. Has she responded?" "Not publicly. But she called me 3 times. I didn't answer." He leaned back in the chair. "Her leverage is gone now. She can't force me to marry her when I'm already married. Mission accomplished." Right. Mission accomplished. This was all going according to his plan. "I should probably unpack," I said, gesturing vaguely at my suitcase near the door. "Get settled in. Actually, we need to go shopping first. Your wardrobe needs an upgrade." I bristled. "What's wrong with my wardrobe?" "Nothing for a junior marketing coordinator. But you're my wife now, and a senior director. You'll be attending galas, charity events, business dinners with me. You need appropriate clothing." He must have seen my expression because he added, Think of it as a work uniform. I'm not criticizing your personal style. He was right, but it still stung. Another reminder that this was all performance, all business. Fine. When? Tomorrow. I've already scheduled appointments at several boutiques. My treat, obviously. It's part of the arrangement. He stood. For tonight, let's keep things low-key. Order takeout, stay in. Let the media frenzy die down a bit. What do you like? Italian? Thai. There's an excellent sushi place that delivers. Sushi sounds good. An hour later, we sat at his dining table with an impressive spread of sushi, sashimi, and rolls. It felt surreal. Eating dinner with my new husband in uncomfortable silence, both of us scrolling through our phones. Strangers who happen to share last name now. We should establish some ground rules, Elijah said, setting down his phone. For living together. Okay. First, we both maintain our own schedules. I work long hours, often from home. I'll need my office undisturbed during business hours. Second, we split the common spaces equally. You're welcome to use the kitchen, living room, terrace whenever you want. Third, we should coordinate social calendars through Amanda, so we're both aware of any events we need to attend together. That makes sense. What about finances? Day-to-day stuff? I'll set up an account in your name with a monthly allowance. $50,000 should be sufficient for expenses, wardrobe, and personal needs. If you need more, just ask. Keep your own bank account separate. The $5 million will be deposited after our first anniversary, but you'll receive monthly payments of $20,000 starting next week as part of your consulting fee. $20,000 a month. I tried not to show how staggering that amount was. We should also discuss boundaries, he continued. Physical boundaries. This is a marriage in name only. We maintain separate bedrooms, separate lives. What happened today, the kiss was for show. It doesn't happen again unless we're in public and it's necessary for appearances. Agreed. I ignored the small twinge of disappointment. What about dating? Seeing other people? The contract specifies neither of us can publicly date anyone else during the marriage. It would undermine the arrangement privately. He paused. Let's just say discretion is essential. I have no intention of seeing anyone else this year. Too complicated, but if you meet someone, we'll handle it carefully. The idea of dating while married to Elijah, even in a fake marriage, felt impossible. I think I'll focus on my career instead. Speaking of which, Monday you start your new position. I've had HR prepare everything. You'll have an office on the executive floor, a new team reporting to you, and several major projects to oversee. I'm not giving you special treatment. You earned this promotion. But people will assume nepotism, so you'll need to prove yourself even more. I can handle that. I know you can. That's why I chose you for this arrangement. He met my eyes. You're tougher than you think, Vanessa. What Bradley and his family did to you would have broken some people. Instead, you turned it into an opportunity. That takes guts. The unexpected compliment warmed something inside me. Thank you. Don't thank me. You're doing me a favor as much as I'm helping you. He cleared the takeout containers. I have some work to finish tonight. Feel free to explore the apartment, watch TV, whatever you want. Tomorrow we'll be busy. After he disappeared into his office, I explored my new home. I found the library filled with books, not just business texts, but fiction, history, philosophy. The kitchen was fully stocked. The terrace had comfortable furniture and heat lamps for Chicago's cool evenings. I stood outside, looking at the glittering city below, and felt the weight of what I'd done settling over me. I was married to a stranger, living in his home, about to become a public figure whether I wanted to or not. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Enjoy it while it lasts, Catherine Whitmore. It had to be. I deleted the message without responding. She'd lost. Whatever game she'd been playing, Elijah and I had outmaneuvered her. But her words stuck with me as I got ready for bed in my new bedroom. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd made a deal with consequences I couldn't foresee. But I'd been playing it safe my entire life, trying to fit into boxes other people created for me. Bradley and his family had taught me that playing by the rules didn't guarantee happiness or respect, so I'd broken the rules spectacularly. I'd married a billionaire in a contract arrangement that would change my life forever. As I lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the Chicago skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, I wondered if I'd made the best decision of my life, or the biggest mistake. Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. There was no going back now. I was Mrs. Elijah Murphy for better or worse for the next 363 days, and tomorrow the real performance will begin. I fell asleep thinking about that kiss at the ceremony. The unexpected warmth, the flutter in my chest. It was just nerves, I told myself. Just the adrenaline of a surreal day. It didn't mean anything. It couldn't mean anything. This was business. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, I'd underestimated how complicated this arrangement could become. Especially when your fake husband made your heart race with nothing more than a 3-second kiss that was supposed to mean nothing at all. Saturday morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten to cover. For a disorienting moment I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back, the penthouse, the marriage, Elijah. I grabbed my phone. 1723 a.m., 217 new notifications. I silenced it and padded to the kitchen, hoping to find coffee. Elijah was already there, dressed in running clothes, reading something on his tablet while an espresso machine hissed and burgled. He looked up when I entered. Morning. Coffee's ready. Mugs are in the cabinet above the machine. No awkwardness, no discomfort. Just a simple greeting as if we'd been living together for years instead of one night. Thanks. I poured myself a cup, added cream. You're up early. I run every morning at 6. 40 minutes along the lakefront. Help me think. He studied me for a moment. You look tired. Didn't sleep well. Strange bed. Strange apartment. Strange husband. I tried to make it sound light, but it came out more honest than intended. The corner of his mouth twitched. Fair enough. It'll get easier. We have shopping appointments starting at 10, so you have time to relax. There's a gym on the building's amenity floor if you want to work out, or the tub in your bathroom has jets if you prefer. A bath sounds perfect actually. Good. Oh, and Vanessa. He sat down his tablet. My mother's jewelry. It's in the safe in my office. You should wear some of it. People will expect to see family heirlooms on my wife. His mother's jewelry. The intimacy of that felt wrong, even though I knew it was just another prop in our performance. Are you sure? That seems it's just sitting in a safe gathering dust. She would have wanted it worn. Something flickered across his face too quick to identify. Besides, it adds authenticity to our story. The besotted husband gives his bride his mother's treasures. After breakfast, I took that bath, trying to process my new reality. The tub was enormous, the jets heavenly. I could get used to this lifestyle, I realized. The luxury, the comfort, the freedom from financial stress, that scared me a little. What if I became someone who couldn't live without it? At 9:45, I dressed in my nicest jeans and a blazer. Elijah had changed into dark slacks and a crisp white shirt. Sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked effortlessly elegant. Ready? He asked. A car was waiting downstairs. Not his Tesla, but a black SUV with tinted windows and a driver. Thomas, the head of security who'd witnessed our wedding, sat in the passenger seat. Is security really necessary? I asked as we pulled into traffic. You're married to me now. That makes you a target for paparazzi, for people who want access to me, for anyone with an agenda. Thomas and his team will be around frequently. You'll get used to it. Our first stop was a boutique on Oak Street that apparently opened early just for us. The owner, a stylish woman named Diane, had already pulled dozens of options. Mrs. Murphy, what a pleasure, she gushed. Though her eyes assessed me with professional calculation, Mr. Murphy described your coloring perfectly. I have cocktail dresses, evening gowns, business attire. Let's start with the gala piece for next weekend. Gala? I looked at Elijah. The Children's Hospital benefit. It's been on my calendar for months. We'll make our first public appearance as a married couple. He said it casually, but I felt my stomach clench. Don't worry. I'll be with you the entire time. For the next 3 hours, I tried on clothes. Diane and her assistants brought endless options, while Elijah sat on a leather sofa, occasionally glancing up from his phone to nod approval or shake his head. His taste was impeccable. He rejected anything too flashy or revealing, approving pieces that were elegant and sophisticated. The gala gown he chose was stunning, a deep emerald silk that somehow made my brown eyes look luminous. It hugged my curves without being inappropriate, the neckline elegant rather than suggestive. Perfect, Elijah said when I stepped out. That's the one. By the time we finished, I had a wardrobe worth more than I used to make in a year. Business suits, cocktail dresses, casual designer pieces, shoes, handbags. Diane promised everything would be delivered to the penthouse by Monday. Our next stop was a jewelry store where Elijah retrieved his mother's pieces from a private vault, a diamond tennis bracelet, pearl earrings, a stunning sapphire necklace. Each piece was exquisite and probably worth a fortune. Wear the pearls daily, he instructed, their classic understated. Save the sapphires for formal events. The bracelet works for business dinners and cocktail parties. He was coaching me, I realized, teaching me how to play the role of his wife. Lunch was at a trendy restaurant where the hostess immediately recognized Elijah and led us to a private corner table. The moment we sat down, I noticed people staring and whispering. "They're looking at us," I said quietly. "Let them look, we're newlyweds, we're supposed to be wrapped up in each other." He reached across the table and took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. The gesture looked intimate, affectionate. His touch sent unexpected tingles at my arm. "Smile at me like you're in love." I forced a smile, trying to ignore how warm his hand felt in mine. "Better. But relax, you look nervous." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "Vanessa, this only works if we sell it. When we're in public, I'm your husband, and you're my wife. We need to look like we can't get enough of each other. That's easier said than done. Then practice. Tell me something real, something that makes you happy." I blinked at the unexpected request. "Books. I love getting lost in a good story. And hiking. There's a trail near Starved Rock State Park where you can see waterfalls. I go there when I need to think." "I've never been there." He was still holding my hand, still playing the role, but his expression seemed genuinely interested. "What else?" "I play piano. Not well, but I enjoy it. My mom made me take lessons as a kid, and I hated it then. But now I miss it. I haven't had access to a piano since I moved out. There's a piano at my lake house in Wisconsin. You're welcome to play it whenever we're up there." He paused. "We'll need to spend a few weekends there over the summer. For appearances. Newlyweds retreating to their romantic getaway." Right. Appearances. I'd almost forgotten this was all performance. The waiter arrived with our food and Elijah finally released my hand. I tried not to feel disappointed by the loss of contact. "Your turn," I said. "Tell me something real about you." He considered it while cutting his steak. "I played chess competitively when I was younger. I like the strategy the way you have to think 10 moves ahead. It's how I approach business, anticipating every possible scenario." "Is that how you plan this?" "Our arrangement?" "Yes. I mapped out every contingency, every potential complication. I'm very good at predicting outcomes." He met my eyes. "What I didn't predict was how easy you'd be to talk to." The comment caught me off guard. "Oh, we're going to be spending significant time together this year. It helps that you're not insufferable." A hint of a smile. "Some of the women I've dated were exhausting. Always performing, always angling for something. You're refreshingly honest. Even though our entire marriage is a lie. Even though you're honest about the lie. That's the difference." After lunch we stopped at a technology store where Elijah insisted on buying me a new phone and laptop, top of the line. Both products from Murphy Enterprises. "You'll need them for work," he explained. "Consider it a signing bonus for your promotion." By the time we returned to the penthouse at 4 p.m., I was exhausted. My feet hurt from trying on shoes. My brain was overloaded from instructions and etiquette lessons Elijah had given me throughout the day. And I desperately needed time alone. "I'm going to take a nap," I announced. "Good idea. We have dinner reservations at 8. Somewhere public, where we'll definitely be photographed. The newlywed narrative needs reinforcement." I retreated to my bedroom and collapsed on the bed. My phone buzzed with yet another message. This time it was from Jasmine. "Saw photos of you and Elijah shopping on TMZ. You two look good together. Almost too good. Are you sure this is just business?" I stared at the message. Was I sure Elijah's hand holding mine at lunch had felt natural, comfortable? The way he'd looked at me when I talked about hiking had seemed genuinely engaged. And that kiss at the ceremony kept replaying in my mind. "It's just business," I typed back. "We're good actors, that's all." But as I tried to nap, I couldn't shake the feeling that the line between performance and reality was already starting to blur. And we'd only been married for 24 hours. That evening, I wore one of my new outfits. A sleek black dress with simple pearl earrings, my hair styled in soft curls. When I emerged from my bedroom, Elijah was waiting in a charcoal suit that made him look devastatingly handsome. "You look beautiful," he said. and I couldn't tell if he meant it, or if the performance had already begun. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. The restaurant was Italian, upscale, definitely a place where Chicago's elite would see us. As predicted, phone cameras came out the moment we entered. Elijah kept his hand on the small of my back, guiding me to our table, attentive and possessive in all the right ways. Over wind and pasta, we talked more. He told me about building his company, the early struggles, the breakthrough that changed everything. I told him about growing up in a working-class neighborhood, the pressure to succeed, the pride I felt earning my own way. Your parents did a good job raising you. He observed. You have strong values. That's rare. They worried I was selling out by marrying you. Are you selling out? I considered the question. No, I'm making a strategic choice that benefits both of us. That's not selling out, that's being smart. Exactly. He raised his wine glass to make strategic choices. I clinked my glass against his, and to survive the next 362 days. I'll drink that. As we left the restaurant, cameras flashed. Someone called out, Mr. Murphy, how does it feel to be married? Elijah pulled me close and smiled at the photographers, like the luckiest man alive. Then he kissed me, not a brief peck like at the ceremony, but a real kiss, soft, lingering, convincing. His hand cupped my face, his lips warm against mine. For a moment, I forgot the cameras, forgot the charade. I kissed him back, my hands gripping his jacket. When we pulled apart, I was breathless. He looked pleased, like the kiss had achieved its purpose. Perfect, he murmured. That'll be all over social media by morning. Right. Performance. That's all it was. But as we drove home in comfortable silence, I couldn't stop touching my lips, couldn't stop replaying that kiss. And I couldn't shake the terrifying realization that somewhere between this morning's coffee and tonight's kiss, I'd started to forget this was all supposed to be fake. The Children's Hospital benefit gala arrived faster than I expected. I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, adjusting the emerald gown one last time. The woman staring back at me looked polished, confident, expensive. Nothing like the girl who'd been thrown out of her wedding rehearsal just a week ago. A week. That's all it had been. 7 days since my life imploded. 7 days since I'd become Mrs. Elijah Murphy. A knock on my door. Vanessa, we need to leave in 5 minutes. I opened the door to find Elijah in a tuxedo, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. His eyes swept over me, and something flickered in their gray depths. Appreciation, maybe more. You're stunning, he said softly. Then more businesslike. Ready to face the wolves? As ready as I'll ever be. The ballroom at the Four Seasons was glittering with Chicago's elite. Crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing, designer gowns everywhere I looked. As we entered, conversations paused. Heads turned. The whispers started immediately. Elijah's hand found mine, his grip reassuring. Chin up, you belong here just as much as any of them. We made our rounds. Elijah introduced me to business associates, donors, board members. I smiled until my face hurt, and answered the same questions over and over. How did you meet? Wasn't it sudden? You must be so happy. I played my part perfectly. The blushing bride, the woman madly in love with her brilliant husband, and the terrifying part? It was getting easier to pretend. Too easy. Then I saw them in the room. Bradley, Patricia, Douglas, the entire Hutchinson family, dressed to the nines, holding court near the bar. My hand tightened on Elijah's arm. He followed my gaze and understood immediately. Do you want to leave? He asked quietly. No. The word came out fiercer than I intended. I want them to see me. I want them to see what they lost. A slow smile crossed his face. That's my girl. He pressed a kiss to my temple, but his eyes never left the Hutchinsons. Let's give them a show. We circled closer, Elijah's arm around my waist, pulling me against him. We looked like we couldn't bear to be apart. When we were close enough that the Hutchinsons couldn't miss us, Elijah stopped to talk with a prominent philanthropist, positioning us directly in their line of sight. I felt Patricia's glare like a physical thing. Bradley's face had gone pale. Douglas looked uncomfortable. Elijah Murphy, someone said behind us. Congratulations on your marriage. We turned to find Senator Richard Whitmore, a practiced smile on his face. And beside him, looking like she'd swallowed glass, was Catherine Whitmore. The air crackled with tension. This was the woman who'd tried to blackmail Elijah into marriage. Now she had to stand here and pretend to be gracious about his marriage to someone else. Senator Whitmore, Catherine. Elijah's voice was cordial, but cool. Thank you. May I introduce my wife, Vanessa? Charming, Catherine said, her smile not reaching her eyes. She looked me up and down dismissively. How fortunate for you landing someone like Elijah. Quite the upgrade from your previous fiancé, I hear. The insult was thinly veiled. Elijah's jaw tightened. Actually, I'm the fortunate one, he said smoothly. Vanessa could have had anyone. She chose me. That makes me the luckiest man in this room. The sincerity in his voice made my heart skip. Was he still performing? Or was there truth in those words? How sweet, Catherine said acidly. I hope it lasts. Oh, it will, I said, finding my voice. I looked up at Elijah, letting real emotion show in my eyes. The gratitude, the growing affection, the confusing feelings I'd been trying to ignore. When you find someone who sees you for who you really are and values that, you don't let them go. Elijah's eyes locked on mine. And for a moment, everyone else disappeared. The ballroom, the gala, Catherine, the Hutchinsons. All of it faded. There was just him looking at me like I'd said something profound. Excuse us, he said abruptly to the Whitmores. I'd like to dance with my wife. He led me to the dance floor as a slow song began. His hand settled on my waist, mine on his shoulder, our other hands clasped between us. We swayed to the music, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the warmth of his body. Thank you, he murmured. For what you said to Catherine, you didn't have to defend me like that. Yes, I did. We're a team, remember? For the next 355 days. Right, the arrangement. Something in his voice sounded off. Vanessa, I need to tell you something. My heart was hammered. What? This past week, living with you, getting to know you, it's been, he paused, seeming to struggle for words. It's been easier than I expected. Better than I expected. You're not what I thought you'd be. What did you think I'd be? A transaction. A solution to a problem. But you're... He pulled me slightly closer. You're becoming a friend. Maybe more than a friend, and that wasn't part of the plan. I couldn't breathe. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? Elijah, I know. The contract specifies this is temporary, business only, and I'll honor that if that's what you want. But I need you to know. These feelings I'm developing, they're real. The way I look at you, the way I want to spend time with you, the way that kiss outside the restaurant felt, none of that is performance anymore. The music swirled around us. Other couples danced nearby, oblivious to the moment happening in their midst. I'm scared, I whispered. What if this is just rebound? What if I'm confusing gratitude for something else? What if you're not? He searched my face. What if this is real? What if we could turn this arrangement into something genuine? Before I could answer, someone cleared their throat beside us. We turned to find Bradley, looking miserable in his tuxedo. Vanessa, can we talk? No, Elijah said flatly. Please, just 5 minutes. Bradley's eyes were red-rimmed. I need to apologize. Elijah looked at me, letting me decide. I nodded. 5 minutes, I said, outside. We stepped onto the terrace, overlooking the Chicago River. Bradley shoved his hands in his pockets, unable to meet my eyes. I was a coward, he said. You were right about everything. I let my parents control me. I didn't stand up for you. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too weak to fight for it. Why are you telling me this now? Because seeing you with him, seeing how happy you look, how confident, I realized what I lost. You were never the problem, Vanessa. I was, my family was. And I threw you away like you meant nothing. Tears pricked my eyes, but not from sadness, from closure, from finally hearing the words I'd needed. You're right, you were a coward, and you did lose the best thing in your life. I straightened my shoulders, but I didn't lose anything. I gained everything. Elijah sees my worth. He respects me. He makes me feel like an equal, not a charity case he's trying to improve. Do you love him? The question hung in the air. Did I? Could I, after just 1 week? I'm falling for him, I admitted. I didn't plan to. It was supposed to be simple. But nothing about Elijah Murphy is simple. And yes, Bradley. I think I could love him. Maybe I already do. Saying it out loud made it real, terrifyingly, wonderfully real. Then I'm happy for you, Bradley said. And he sounded like he meant it. Truly, you deserve someone who fights for you. I never did. He clearly does. We said goodbye, not as enemies, but as two people who'd once cared for each other and had grown into different futures. It felt like closing a chapter I'd been clinging to out of fear, rather than love. When I returned inside, Elijah was waiting near the terrace doors, watching me with concerned eyes. "You okay?" "Better than okay." I took his hand. Bradley apologized, and I realized something important. "What's that?" "That what I felt for him was comfortable and safe. What I feel for you is terrifying and exhilarating and probably completely insane considering we've known each other for a week." I squeezed his hand. "But it's also real. You were right. This stopped being a performance for me too." Relief. And something deeper. Hope, maybe, flooded his expression. "So, what do we do about it?" "We could renegotiate the contract." He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Renegotiate how?" "Instead of 1 year of fake marriage, we try 1 year of real marriage. See where it goes. No pressure, no expectations beyond giving this US an actual chance. And if it doesn't work out, then we divorce as planned, and at least we tried." "But Elijah, I think it might work out. I think we might be something extraordinary if we let ourselves." He pulled me into his arms right there in the ballroom, uncaring who saw. "I think you might be right." Then he kissed me, and this time there was no performance, no cameras, no audience we were trying to convince. Just two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances, and decided to take a chance on something real. When we pulled apart, I was breathless and smiling. Around us people were staring and whispering, but I didn't care. Let them talk. Let them speculate. The only opinion that mattered was standing in front of me, looking at me like I was the best thing that had ever happened to him. "Take me home," I whispered. "Our home?" "Gladly, Mrs. Murphy." As we left the gala, I caught a glimpse of Patricia Hutchinson's shocked face, and Catherine Whitmore's furious expression. They'd both tried to control their narratives, manipulate outcomes, force people into boxes that suited them. They'd both failed. Because sometimes life doesn't go according to plan. Sometimes you get kicked out of your wedding rehearsal by cruel people who never deserved you. Sometimes you make a crazy deal with a billionaire to solve his problems while fixing your own. Sometimes a business arrangement turns into something that feels like fate. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you discover that the life you thought you wanted was nothing compared to the life you didn't. I know you needed 3 months later. Elijah and I renewed our vows in a real ceremony with our families present. My parents cried. Marcus gave a toast about how his sister had always been too smart to settle for less than she deserved. Jasmine and Taylor stood beside me as my bridesmaids, thrilled that the fake marriage had become genuine. We didn't need the contract anymore. We tore it up together, laughing as we threw the pieces off our terrace into the Chicago wind. "No more business arrangements," Elijah said, pulling me close. "Just us. Just real." "Just real," I agreed, kissing him as the sun set over Lake Michigan. I'd walked into his office that Monday morning expecting to be fired. Instead, I'd found a partnership, a purpose, and eventually a love I'd stopped believing existed. Bradley Hutchinson had done me the biggest favor of my life when he let his family cancel our wedding. He'd freed me to find something infinitely better, and 72 hours after the worst night of my life. I'd married Elijah Murphy, not for business, not for revenge, not for money, but for love. The real, messy, extraordinary, once-in-a-lifetime kind of love that changes everything. And we lived happily ever after, not because it was part of a contract, or a performance or a plan, but because we chose it every single day, looking for more. Thanks for watching.